Salvatore Maranzano sent 20 men to destroy Bumpy Johnson. Only 2 walked out, and the message they delivered made the most powerful Sicilian boss in New York abandon his empire and flee to Italy forever. August 3rd, 1946. Bumpy Johnson was outnumbered 20-1. Vito Maranzano had sent his deadliest crew, Giuseppe the Blade, Carmelo the Butcher, Salvatore the Silent, Antonio the Wolf. 16 more killers whose names were whispered in fear from Palermo to Brooklyn. They cornered Bumpy in the Apollo Theater basement. No witnesses, no way out. Bumpy was 40 years old, king of Harlem, but still proving himself to old world mafia. Vito was the most traditional Sicilian boss in New York. Everyone expected the same ending. Bumpy Johnson dead in a basement. But what Vito didn't know, Bumpy Johnson understood honor better than most Sicilians. 3 hours later, only 2 of those 20 men walked out alive, and they delivered a message that made Vito Maranzano pack his bags and leave America forever. This is the story of the night Bumpy Johnson earned respect from the deadliest killers in the world. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand Vito Maranzano. He was the nephew of Salvatore Maranzano, the man who once controlled all Italian families in America before Lucky Luciano had him killed in 1931. Vito had spent 15 years trying to restore his family's honor, their old-world Sicilian traditions. By 1946, Vito controlled the East Harlem numbers racket, several restaurants, and a network of enforcers who'd been raised in the hills of Sicily. These weren't American gangsters. These were men who'd learned to kill before they could read. But there was a problem: Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had been expanding his territory eastward, taking over buildings, recruiting runners, establishing protection routes that crossed into traditional Italian territory. To Vito, this wasn't just business competition. This was disrespect. A black man challenging Sicilian authority was an insult to everything his family stood for. January 1946, Vito sent messengers to Bumpy. The message was simple: stay west of Park Avenue or face the consequences. Bumpy sent the messengers back with a response that made Vito's blood boil. Tell Vito that Harlem has no borders for real men. In February 1946, Vito tried economic pressure. He convinced several Italian restaurant owners to refuse service to Bumpy's people. He pressured dock workers to delay shipments to Bumpy's businesses. He spread rumors that Bumpy was weak, that his organization was falling apart. Bumpy responded by opening 3 new numbers operations in East Harlem, in buildings that Vito considered sacred Italian territory. March 1946, Vito escalated. He sent 6 enforcers to rough up Bumpy's runners. The enforcers came back beaten unconscious, stripped naked, and dumped in Little Italy with a note pinned to their chests: real men fight face to face. By July 1946, Vito was getting pressure from other Italian families. His inability to handle the Harlem problem was making him look weak. Old world Sicilians didn't accept weakness. So Vito made a decision that would destroy everything he'd built. He called in favors from Sicily. Real favors. From men who owed debts that could only be paid in blood. Giuseppe the Blade had killed 14 men with knives. Carmelo the Butcher specialized in making deaths look like accidents. Salvatore the Silent had never spoken a word during a killing. They were artists of violence, craftsmen of death. 20 men total, the most expensive hit squad ever assembled in New York. Each man paid $5,000 for one job: kill Bumpy Johnson publicly, brutally, and make sure all of Harlem knew that Sicilian honor had been restored. August 2nd, 1946, the 20 men arrived in New York by ship. They met with Vito at his restaurant in Little Italy. The plan was simple: corner Bumpy somewhere isolated. Make it last. Make it painful. Make it memorable. They'd been watching Bumpy for a week. Every Tuesday night, he met with theater owners at the Apollo Theater to discuss protection and business arrangements. The meetings happened in the basement storage room. Private, quiet, perfect for an execution. August 3rd, 1946. 11:30 p.m. 20 Sicilian killers descended on the Apollo Theater like shadows. They disabled the security, cut the phone lines, and positioned themselves at every exit. Giuseppe the Blade picked the lock on the basement door. The 20 men filed down the narrow stairs in perfect silence. Professional killers moving like a death machine. They found Bumpy sitting alone at a table, reading a newspaper, drinking coffee. He looked up as they surrounded him. 20 guns pointed at his head. Giuseppe stepped forward, his knife glinting in the overhead light. Vito Maranzano sends his regards. Bumpy set down his newspaper slowly. He looked around the circle of killers, counting carefully. Then he smiled. 20 uomini per un solo nero, Bumpy said, in perfect Italian. 20 men for one black man. The killers froze. Bumpy Johnson speaking Italian wasn't just unexpected, it was impossible. Dovevi imparato l'onor siciliano, Bumpy continued. Where did you learn Sicilianor? Giuseppe's knife hand wavered. You speak our language? Parlo la lingua degli uomini d'onore, Bumpy replied. I speak the language of men of honor, and right now you're dishonoring everything your grandfathers taught you. The basement went completely silent. 20 killers, men who'd never hesitated to pull a trigger, suddenly uncertain. Vito Maranzano sent you here to kill a man who's never shown him disrespect, Bumpy said, standing up slowly. A man who's simply protecting his neighborhood, the same way you protect yours. Carmelo the Butcher lowered his gun slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying Vito has forgotten what it means to be Sicilian. Real Sicilians don't send 20 men to kill one. Real Sicilians face their enemies with respect. Bumpy reached into his jacket, every gun in the room aimed at him, but he moved slowly, deliberately. He pulled out a small object and placed it on the table. It was a Sicilian coin, old and worn, with the symbol of the Trinacrea. My cellmate in Alcatraz was from Corleone, Bumpy said quietly. Old man named Francesco taught me your language, your customs, your code. He said real Sicilians recognize honor wherever they find it. Salvatore the Silent spoke for the first time in years. Corleone Francesco Torino, said he knew your father. Salvatore. Salvatore's gun dropped to his side. Francesco Torino was a legend in Corleone, a man of absolute honor who died in prison rather than betray his principles. If Francesco taught you, Salvatore said slowly, then you understand Cosa Nostra. You understand that Vito has brought shame on all of us. Bumpy nodded. 20 men to kill one man isn't strength. It's fear, and fear dishonors your families. Giuseppe looked around at his men. Professional killers, but also Sicilians raised on stories of honor and respect. What they'd been asked to do suddenly felt wrong. What do you propose? Giuseppe asked. I propose you go back to Vito with a message. Tell him that if he wants Bumpy Johnson dead, he should come himself, face to face, man to man, the way Sicilians handle business. Antonio the Wolf stepped forward. And if he refuses, then you'll know he's not worthy of the Maranzano name. The 20 men looked at each other. They'd come to commit murder, but they'd found something they hadn't expected. A black man who understood their culture better than their own boss. Giuseppe sheathed his knife. We cannot return empty-handed. You won't, Bumpy said. He picked up the Sicilian coin and pressed it into Giuseppe's palm. Take this to Vito. Tell him it came from Francesco Torino's student. Tell him that honor is earned, not inherited. One by one, the 20 killers filed back up the basement stairs, but not all of them. 18 men left the Apollo Theater that night. 2 stayed behind. Salvatore the Silent and Antonio the Wolf. Why? Bumpy asked. Because you showed us more respect in 10 minutes than Vito showed us in 10 years, Salvatore replied. The next morning, Giuseppe the Blade walked into Vito's restaurant and placed the Sicilian coin on his table. Where is Bumpy Johnson? Vito demanded. Alive. What do you mean, alive? I sent 20 men. Giuseppe's voice was ice cold. You sent 20 men to dishonor our families. Bumpy Johnson speaks our language, knows our customs, understands our code. You don't. Vito stood up, his face red with rage. "How dare you? How dare you?" Giuseppe replied. "Send us to kill a man of honor while you hide behind your desk like a coward." The restaurant went dead, silent. Vito's other men watched as Giuseppe delivered the message that would end Vito's reign. Bumpy Johnson offers you a choice. Face him yourself, man to man, or leave New York and never return. And if I refuse both? Giuseppe looked around the room at Vito's soldiers, men who'd heard every word, men who now questioned their boss's honor. "Then you'll discover that some of your own men understand Sicilian honor better than you do." Vito looked around the room. His soldiers wouldn't meet his eyes. In trying to destroy Bumpy Johnson, he'd revealed his own weakness to everyone who mattered. 3 days later, Vito Maranzano boarded a ship to Palermo. He never returned to America. 2 weeks after that, Giuseppe the Blade met with Bumpy at a restaurant in Little Italy. Not as enemies, but as men who understood respect. "You could have killed us all that night," Giuseppe said. "Why didn't you?" "Because killing you would have made me your enemy," Bumpy replied. "Showing you respect made me your friend." From that day forward, there was peace between Italian families and Bumpy's organization. Not because of fear, but because of mutual respect. The two men who stayed behind, Salvatore and Antonio, became trusted allies. They helped negotiate disputes, prevented wars, and maintained the peace for 20 years. And that Sicilian coin, Bumpy kept it on his desk for the rest of his life. A reminder that honor transcends race, culture, and territory. August 3rd, 1946. 20 men walked into a basement to commit murder. 18 walked out, having learned what honor really means. And the two who stayed changed everything. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy, it's earning their respect. If this story of honor crossing all boundaries moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you believe respect is the most powerful weapon, and comment below. What would you have done in that basement?